Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here in Vancouver at the January 2020 Metal Investors Forum. I'm here with Mike Gunning. He's the CEO of VR Resources, which is a company that my newsletters, HR Advisories, follows. Mike has been a very successful geologist. He's got a couple of fairly large deals that he's attached to. But one of the things I like about VR and about Mike, and there's a few companies like this on my list, and there's very few of them around. Mike is one of those rare explorers who's actually willing to go out and do very, very early stage conceptual exploration to try to build targets, model-based targets. But I think in doing that, and Mike's working in three areas. Two really, I suppose. You've got three projects. All of these projects sport very large target scale because you're not sort of going in trying to step between two other guys that are working. Right. You went after like really big target stuff, new areas, building big model scale targets, very, very high, risk reward ratio type stuff. Like if you hit, it's going to be huge. The nearest term catalyst right now is a property called Ranoke, and you're going to be drilling again there in I think a couple of weeks. Can you just give us a thumbnail on like what are you targeting with this drilling?
Ranoke is an example of that sort of early stage exploration where we staked that property based on government data that you could have looked at, that Agnico Eagle could have looked at, and anyone in our industry in terms of exposure to OGS and GSE data that for the last 20 to 40 years in this region has pointed to the possibility of large-scale carbonatite or IOCG or kimberlite intrusions coming up into this big shear zone. And in this area, there is copper-gold geochemistry in the OGS data. There is evidence for copper-gold grains in the ground from ironically, Ontario coal drilling that shows you that there is a intrusion with a gravity and magnetic signature, which has never been staked. It's never been explored. It's never been filed for assessment. That could give you what is the source of the copper gold geochemistry that has been available for 20 years. And VR with the confidence to take technologies and mineral deposit models from things like Broken Hill and Olympic Dam, new IOCG discoveries, Carapatina, new exploration technologies, and say, why don't we take a look at this? And so you do the compilation, you show yourself that the target is actually real, stake it, you confirm these attributes with your own surveys, which is what we did through this year. And we're now at the stage in November where we started this first pass drilling of walking across a large and high intensity gravity anomaly, high-intensity mag anomaly, to see if they could be sourced by a high-density iron oxide breccia body that is sourcing the copper and gold in the geochem anomalies. And honestly, we haven't found one of these things in North America since Olympic Dam was discovered in 1976. Right. The scale of Ranoke and the lack of new greenfield copper discoveries is such that Ranoke is the kind of discovery that could get the industry excited, market aside, actually get the mining industry excited. And this is what I want VR working on. All exploration costs the same. Right. The difference is, what's the upside? And for Ranoke, on scale, it's difficult to actually quantify. So we started in November. Drilling was difficult. We like the evidence that we see in drill core for these iron oxide fluids. We're going back in 2 weeks. We're moving from the edge of the system into the middle of the system. And for IOCGs, the middle of the system is going to be magnetics and gravity. And that's where we'll be in 2 weeks. So.
And you did, I noticed you did not that large, but you did another flow-through financing right at the end of December. Yeah. Does that give you a little room for a little bit more drilling? Is that the idea?
Exactly. VR's treasury is good right now. The treasury is probably $2.3 million in our last quarter. The share structure is tight at $60 million. I think we still have about 50% of our stock held in 5 institutions and myself. And with that treasury and that share structure, we can move through 2020 And as we move into this drill program, we have the funding to advance, but a little bit of extra flow through at the end of the year. We won't need geochemistry to tell ourselves whether we are in an iron oxide breccia or not.
Yeah.
By having a little more money in the treasury, you can run through the program, take the scheduled driller's break, and instead of waiting for that lag time for information, news releases, marketing to bolster your treasury to continue drilling, we can just take the break and literally come back in and continue in, let's say we drill for 4 weeks in February. Take a break with this extra money. You could stay through the winter season of March, April, and it will just allow us to be more efficient with our drill dollars. So I'm glad we got the support. The upside of Ranoke is catching people's imagination, and that funding at the end of the year is an example of people coming to VR saying, I'm interested.
Yeah.
And I think it tags into, Eric, what you're talking about. There just aren't many people at the front end of R&D in the mining business. And so VR is standing out.
The other property I think would be nice to comment on, because I know, it's always been kind of an interesting property in a better gold market, because it already has some decent gold numbers and spots. But one that I know in your mind has come a long way. Anybody that knows you, that's spoken to you over the last year, your level of enthusiasm and conviction with what you call the Big Ten project, it's really increased over the last year.
It's one of the things why exploration is interesting. We got into the Big Ten caldera on some quartz veins sticking out of the ground with some really interesting gold grades, really as a diversification on our copper on the IPO. With just, boots on the ground, getting dirt under your fingernails, you start with these quartz veins, you end up establishing a 20-kilometer trend of gold and quartz veins through this caldera. 40 kilometers to the north is a caldera of the same age, the same volcanic rocks, in the same belt of extensional structures that we heard Quentin talking about this morning. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, on one of these new properties called Amsel in Big Ten, it's not the quartz veins that have become interesting. It is a 2 by 3 kilometer alteration cap dominated by a potassium mineral called adularia that is a very specific tie to 18 million ounces of gold in an adularia-bearing alteration system at Round Mountain. Largest heap leach gold operation in the world, I'm pretty sure. Right. Certainly Kinross's core asset in North America. And that could even tie you back to Comstock, the origins of the Silver State in Nevada in the 1850s, with the same thing: tertiary volcanic centers, extension, epithermal gold fluids, and a lot of adularia alterations. So the project has advanced. We have thrown every exploration tool in the book on this. This one target has developed a big footprint. The historic exploration is in the alteration cap. It looks like the roots of the system are on the flank. And I'm hoping we can expose shareholders to a first pass drill program in 2020. The common denominator here, Eric, for Ranoke in Ontario, for Big Ten, for the Bonita Copper Gold, these are systems that were known about in general, but they hadn't been explored in the last 50 years with an improved understanding of how does copper and gold occur in Nevada. None of them have been drilled before. All of this diamond drilling that VR is doing for Discovery is to put something new on the table. Right. And the reason that copper is moving is because the major copper companies don't have a lot of new discoveries to look at. Right. And what I want VR to be able to do, whether it's in gold or copper, is to give these majors something new. Right. And surprisingly, Big Ten has become not only tangible, but the correlations to one of the world's great epithermal deposits is obvious. And so this is what we're paid to do, to go in and test it. And that's what we're going to do.
Okay. VR Resources, symbol is VRR in Vancouver. As I said at the start, I love the fact that these guys go out and apply original thinking to original areas and come up with brand new targets. Very high risk, high reward stuff. Very big targets, all three of Mike's main projects. It's one of those companies where if they hit on any of these targets, you're going to see things move very, very fast. So you really want to be paying attention now before the drill bit starts to turn. VR Resources. Thanks, Mike.